Hey, what is going on, guys? So today we're going to be covering Asmongold, who is a gaming streamer. I'm not totally familiar with much of the specific details about him. I know he plays WoW, otherwise known as World of Warcraft, which I actually played a lot of as a kid. I was even addicted to it at one point, and I come back to the game here and there when they have new expansions, but overall I'm just not playing the game as much. Anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. We're going to be covering today how Vegan Gaze did a video on Asmongold, and Asmongold actually responded to his very large audience. I think he has like 1.6 million subscribers, and he had put her video in the description, like the link to her original video. So her channel is kind of getting bombarded by very intelligent comments from his fan base. And that's what I really want to cover in this video, just like the nature of these comments and just how, critically thought out they are and how much, just how reasonable they are. So I want to do that. To be honest, I don't really know how much I want to respond to Asmongold's response to Vegan Gaze, because essentially what happened was, Vegan Gaze made a video on him trying to see if he had any sort of compassion for animals, or if he was consistent in his, consumption of animals, and if he would extend, the idea that it's okay to eat cows, pigs, and chickens to animals like, dogs and cats. And he was basically just like, yeah, like I don't really give a fuck, and was saying like, oh, I care for animals, but I care about my well-being more, or I care about humans more. And the whole video is essentially him just kind of like being like, yeah, I don't really care if, we eat dogs or cats. And whether or not he truly believes in this, and whether or not he would have a reaction or an emotional reaction to, a dog in front of him being stabbed who had no owner. And I'm saying no owner because I believe in the video he says something like, oh, if they have a caretaker, then it's wrong to kill them. So I'm assuming if it's a stray dog, it must be cool to go ahead and kill a dog, because he kind of ties dogs' moral value extrinsically to the caretaker or the human who, quote, possesses the dog. So he might be cool with killing stray dogs for food, who really knows. What I did like about his video, which I believe is the original video that Vegan Gaze had responded to, was where he said that people do tend to have these like double standards with how they empathize with animals, and they'll get upset over like a rabbit or a dog being killed because they view them as cute. But in the case of a cow or something like that, they don't really have the same reaction because they don't think they're cute.
If you want to say that, right, I think that people should at least be consistent and say that, okay, well, I don't like any animal abuse. But I don't know, to me, as I said, it just seems like people only care about animal abuse whenever it's an animal that they think is cute, right? And
I think that's true. I'm right. I'm 100% right. I'm right again. People only care about animal abuse whenever it's cute animals. Whenever the animals aren't cute, well,
So it was cool to see him acknowledge that. So let's just go through some of the comments, I guess, that Vegan Gaze had to deal with on her channel, because some of them are very interesting. And it's always interesting to see the way that people view vegan activism and what they have to say about it. And you don't have to take my word for it, but Vegan Gaze's video was quite civil. It didn't really come across as anything too aggressive or anything like that. But people still seem to have a reaction of like, you're the reason why people don't like vegans, blah, 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 blah. And even Asmongold at the end of his video was like, listen, it wasn't a bad video or something like that. Or he said like, I respect her opinion. He even said like, she didn't make it personal.
anybody can have their opinion. Like, I don't get mad. Like, she didn't make it personal, really. Like, this is a fine video. I don't care if people disagree with me on this. It's totally okay. Why would I get, why would I be upset about it?
So he didn't really feel that much aggression, but people that, rated her channel still had some interesting things to say that made it seem like she was coming across as like super aggressive, when in reality, I don't believe that she was. So let's go ahead and look at what some of these genius comments are. This person said, almost my entire family has been vegan for years, and I can confidently say that you're the kind of vegan that just makes more people dislike vegans. So this is a very common sentiment I've heard amongst a lot of meat eaters. Now, again, if you watch Vegan Gaze's video, she did not come across as that aggressive, but what she did do was at the very least make some sort of criticisms and, ask questions. And I'm not sure what is so wrong about vegan activists who are, in a sense, they are animal rights activists, just doing activism and trying to get people to stop paying for animals to be mass murdered. Right? Now, if you're one of those people that are watching this that are an Asmon fan and you just heard me say the word murder, yes, there are definitions of murder that apply to what we do to animals. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what exact approach Vegan Gaze should have taken. I think these people tend to just want vegans to be quiet. And, asking somebody who is an activist for sentient beings who are being massacred to be quiet about them being massacred, it's not really a reasonable thing to expect, because the beings that animal rights activists speak for cannot really speak themselves. So, there's a whole phrase in the vegan movement, being a voice for the voiceless. So if this person wants vegan gays to be more like the people in her family, who I'm assuming just don't do any activism and don't, quote, judge people for paying for animal abuse, that's just something you can't really expect an activist to do. You're trying to critique the eating habits of a millionaire that eats $2 steaks cooked in the most garbage way possible and gets excited for spicy nuggets to come back to Wendy's. A man who took a bite of a salad and had an expression like he just watched someone die. Yeah, I believe that Vegan Gaze said at the beginning of her video that she didn't really know too much about him. But either way, I don't think it's unreasonable to try to reach out to these bigger creators and at the very least maybe speak to some of their audience who they can convince, because when you make a video on somebody, you're not just trying to convince the person, you're trying to convince the people watching the video that what you're saying is reasonable. So without a doubt, I'm sure there were people who watched that were at the very least, convinced or thought a little more about animal rights and like what their eating habits entail. Doesn't matter if Asmongold seems to be, I don't know if we want to say sociopathic or whatever toward animals. There's going to be people that aren't him that feel something when Vegan Gaze talks about animals being massacred for a sandwich, right? What if it was a horse? I've eaten horse before, horse heart, horse intestines, chilled raw horse meat. It's pretty good. Yeah, so you got to wonder if this dude would have any issue with, say, someone saying, I've eaten a human before, who they, murdered. I've had human heart, human intestines, chilled raw human meat. It's pretty good. And presumably they'd be repulsed by this, and even morally repulsed because, an entailment of them consuming the food in this case would be that the human who was being eaten was also murdered. And then we got to ask, why do you have this repulsion to humans being murdered for food but not horses? And at that point, you got to just name a morally relevant difference, right? What is it? And this person might say something like, the morally relevant difference between humans and horses, such that it's ethical to kill a horse for food but not a human, is lower intellect. But at that point, it's like, okay, so what about certain mentally handicapped humans who show no greater degree of intelligence than a horse? Is it okay to eat them, right? So I wonder what this person would say if they were given that kind of a logical consistency test. Next video, I went after a popular personality and I'm a victim of harassment because no one agreed with what I said. No, I'm quite familiar with Vegan Gaze. I think she knows this is what comes with the territory of going after larger creators. You're gonna be met with an influx of very intelligent comments like these. So I don't think she'll make a video about being harassed unless it gets to something in person, right? Oh, here's a really good one. All right, let's start taking bets. How long until she starts hitting the copium pipe and claim Asmon and his viewers are all misogynist for making fun of her? Now, I don't think she is going to do this, but I wonder why this person's even saying this. Did it see somebody who is a woman who's being criticized and they're just jumping the gun and making, they want to make a bet about whether or not she's going to make this accusation? It's like, I don't know if this is like projection or something. Just a very bizarre comment. Imagine getting a mental breakdown because somebody ate a steak. It's funny that people say this because, there's Elwood Organic Dog Meat, who is a dog meat company, and they sell steaks that come from dogs. And there are many dog lovers who do have mental breakdowns over this. And I wonder if this person would, think it's equally as absurd to have a mental breakdown over someone eating a dog steak as opposed to a steak from a cow.
Yeah, you guys are a piece of... I can't believe you guys support that lady that just mistakenly killed that dog as a wolf. I can't believe you guys support that piece of... And your Insta page, eating dogs, it's not right eating dogs. You guys are a piece of stuff.
And maybe if they're consistent, maybe they don't really care if it's a steak from a dog as well. At that point, we bring it back to the whole human thing as well. What if someone was having a human steak? And if you think that having a mental breakdown over a human steak is reasonable but not a cow steak or a dog steak, again, what is the morally relevant difference between the two, right? I'd be super curious to know the answer to that question. I'm always amazed by people like you who devote all their time to telling other people what they can or cannot do. Now, I don't believe that she was telling him what he can or cannot do in the video. I believe she was just trying to raise some points and make Asmon aware of some of the atrocities that come with supporting the consumption of certain foods like steak. And I don't believe it's all that she does anyway, but is there an issue actually with telling people what to do in the case of someone being a murderer or somebody wanting to eat humans or somebody wanting to eat dogs? It's very clear that people draw a line where they say you can no longer be telling people what to do because we think that it's right to tell people to not murder, for example. So the question is going to come back to this person, why is it unreasonable for vegans to tell people to not support animal abuse, but then when it comes to, like, say, human rights violations, it's okay to tell people to not commit those? What is the morally relevant difference? So I guess we're just gonna be like repeating that question over and over here. Like, why are these people cool with moral policing or being an arbiter of morality in the case of human rights violations, but not in the case of things like animal abuse and supporting that. So Rat Bacon says, this is such an obvious clout chase, but just to say the moralizing left me feeling weak. So I had 2 extra pork chops for energy. Yeah, I mean, you know, making videos on larger creators is a great way to grow your audience. And this is exactly what's happening right here. You know, so commenting this and, you know, feeding into the algorithm is only going to be feeding this process anyway. So I'm sure Vegan Gaze appreciates this comment. But jokes aside, I mean, I don't think her fundamental goal here was to clout chase. I think it was to get a message out to a larger audience concerning animal abuse, because she's an animal rights activist. Crazy concept. Someone says, honestly, as long as it tastes good, I'll eat it. I don't really care what it's from. So I guess, you know, if human meat tasted good, he wouldn't mind supporting a business that literally murders humans for meat. That's a very not worrisome. Then they say, as for the handling of my food, I would prefer if they weren't treated horribly, but at the end of the day, I will buy the cheapest, best tasting food, and my care can only go so far. So they said, I don't really care where it's from. And then in the next sentence says that they have a preference for the food to not be treated horribly, but they'll still buy the best tasting food and their care can only go so far. So they seem like they just don't really care. So yeah, maybe they are down to eat some like horribly treated humans, so long as the meat tastes good. That's not really worrisome at all. Oh, look at this comment. We got some brain power here. I guess I never really thought about it. It's something I've just been mindlessly doing and assuming there is a good reason, like health or something, but I guess it's not that simple. Thank you for making me more aware. Pretty good comment, pretty good comment. So this guy says, vegans think they don't inflict suffering on animals, but you do. Every time I hear you guys speak, I suffer. Well, the thing is that vegans care for like sentient life. And I'm not so sure the person who made this comment is sentient. So we'll just move on to the next one. Hopefully they're sentient. Now I know what kind of pathetic human being is going to go after people for their choices and preferences. It's funny that people just always say this stuff when like, we have no issue with people going after other people's choices and preferences when those choices and preferences contain a victim. For example, Jeffrey Dahmer had a choice and a preference to, you know, kidnap other people, kill them, and consume their flesh, right? So the question comes back to what I've been saying this entire video. Why is it so problematic for vegans to, you know, try to get people to change their choices and preferences that, you know, support animal abuse? But in the case of human rights violations, it's fine to go after people's choices and preferences. Like, what is the morally relevant difference, right? Grass has feelings too, justice for plants. Now we're gonna just assume that's a troll comment. I'm pretty sure it is. If not, you know, we got a plants rights activist on our hands. Maybe they also care about microscopic bacteria. Very noble of them. Imagine successfully reaching an audience and changing exactly 0 minds. Well, that's not exactly true because we did see somebody mention this in the comments. Plus, you don't always know just from comments whether someone has changed minds. Some people just read comments or watch videos and don't actually comment something indicating that their mind has been changed. So you actually don't really know that, right? Congrats, Asmongold made you famous just like you wanted. Not necessarily. I think you just wanted to get a message out. Maybe she wanted the message to be famous. So maybe she succeeded on that front. But check this out. Not gonna lie, I think her take on Asmongold is coming from a place of love and good. I'm from Asmongold's channel, by the way. It is 1,000 times better than that vegan teacher who's forcing people to too much and making awkward cringe songs. Okay, we got another nice comment. So it seems there's a good portion of his fan base that aren't responding so negatively to her video, which is cool. All right, so we got a long one here. Let's see. So I watched the Asmon reaction to this video and his argument was simply that steak is good to eat. It sounds very simple and maybe stupid, but he is right on this one, unfortunately. If something tastes good, it improves your mood, can treat anxiety, stress, depression, etc. And then go on to say, there has been too many people who went full into depression because of diets before. So yeah, I mean, I get the whole sentiment of this. I mean, dude, someone said the same thing about eating human meat. Would you accept this position of taste, though, justifying the murder of another? If not, why do you accept it in the case of animals but not humans? What's the morally relevant difference? If the difference is intellect, then you got to just bite the bullet on people justifying their consumption of mentally handicapped people who show no greater degree of intelligence than, say, livestock, with saying, oh, I was depressed, and now that I eat these humans, I'm no longer depressed. You know, that'd be a quite insane position to take. Alrighty, guys. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if somebody's choices and preferences entail the rights violations of animals, you know, causes animal abuse, or causes, I guess, even human rights violations, you are very absurd to attack that person or try to get them to change their preferences and choices. I mean, just let everyone do whatever they want, regardless of the consequences of their wants. Totally makes sense. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Dude.
Fuck off, I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude,